Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, so I'm really, really glad to be here. So I haven't been at DTU, I think, for quite a while. So my talk is a bit different from the first two talks. So I'll talk about a very, very specific topic. And within this specific topic, I can show you where innovation can occur at a place we maybe do not expect it. So I know I've seen by many, many questions already when walking in here that RocketNet is not really known for innovation. But at the scale that we operate, there's actually quite a few things very, very interesting that are happening. And the idea is to talk about the measurement of marketing. And there are a few kind of easy questions when you build up a company. And I think many of you will in the future. So assuming that you actually monetize on your customers. So that's not the case for all of the companies, but you can actually model many of the problems. Even if you think about a company like Facebook, you can actually think about how do you monetize on a user. So to know how much you actually can pay for a customer, you should know how much you earn for a customer. So that's quite straightforward. So the concept of a customer lifetime value is important. But then, if you think about, well, how much do we earn on a customer, and what can we do about it? So there's things like, well, word of mouth. You can influence that, but if you think about scaling a business model really, really quickly before somebody else does, and that's definitely happening. So we're doing this. There's other people doing it. So if you're growing your business, probably you will rely on paid methods to make it grow quicker. So the question arises, what's the influence of marketing, and how can you measure that? And the way we approach that is in a very quantitative way. And so if you can look at this, it's pseudo-scientific. It's not like the way you should actually write it, but maybe it's easier to understand. So when we think about acquiring a customer, so what we actually want is that the expected value of customer acquisition cost, given the data that we have today, that this is less than the expected customer lifetime value, discounted for the time until we actually, well, get that money. So you could think about, for example, today I'm willing to spend 50 euros on a customer if I make at least discounted 50 euros within the first year, for example. So you could say, you talk to investors, you have a great idea, and you could say, okay, please give me money, because after 1 year, my customers are going to be break even. So today I'm going to lose money, but after a year, that customer is completely fine. Okay? And I can explain a bit how our business works. So oftentimes you read in the newspapers, I think, let's say, a prominent example would be Zalando. Zalando was losing money for many, many years. And there was all these people telling about Zalando is losing money, that's not sustainable, etc. So Zalando was very, very well aware how much they were spending on a customer. And if you take a little example, it illustrates very well. So think about something like a hazelnut tree. So if I were to tell you I want to plant hazelnut trees, and you wouldn't tell me, so please, you plant a hazelnut tree, and then you're going to wait for 5 years, then the first hazelnuts come out, then you take the hazelnuts, you sell them, and then you plant the second, third, and you go on like that. So actually, what is relevant for a business, if you understand the concept of the customer, so we understand hazelnut trees very well as mankind, we don't understand internet business models really well. So if you understand your customer really well as Zalando, and you can show that after a year, you break even for every customer, then you can as well lose money. So actually what you need is you take the investment for the difference in what you make on day one and what you make within a year. And this difference is your risk. So if you want to grow quickly and you're confident that you understand the business model, then you can take that money from investors. But it's actually completely fine to lose money within this period. And the hazelnut trees, I think it's around 5 years or something. So losing money over 5 years is completely fine, and hazelnut trees are well understood. Now, what we try is to understand our customers in the same way as maybe the farmer understands the hazelnut trees. So the complicated part is, how do I measure this? So it's not quite clear how much I spent on the customer, and it's not quite clear how much money I make from him. So the first question is, and the interesting parts are probably you've never thought about this. So we've seen a lot of investment presentations, and people come to us and they pitch ideas. So what actually happens to the money that you spent? So when you think about reporting, So there's many startups that say, okay, this is what you spent. They show some screenshot from Google Analytics or an Excel sheet. They say, this is the money we spent and this is what we made. Google permanently advocates this. That is obviously completely wrong, because what you spend today is not what the customers that come through your website today, they're not the ones that you paid for today. So actually what you're interested in is, if I spend money today, you want to have an understanding when there is a payout. And that can be after a year, that can be after 2 weeks, but most certainly it won't be on the same day. Okay, so first of all, you have to model that. So you have a really good understanding of, I do something, I spend money, and when do I expect a return? That also allows you, for example, to spend just for 1 day. You wait for 2 months, and then you continue spending based on the experiment. So then there's another question. So which customers actually belong to a marketing contact or a cost element? So you spend, there's a customer, and now the question is, so where did he come from? So why did he buy? And again, so what Google promotes, and all the software that Google Analytics, they provide for free, and there's a reason for it, right? So it's not for you to understand fully where your customers come from. It's for you to spend more money on Google. So what they found out is, well, maybe let me phrase it a bit more, not as direct. So they provided a method, it's called last click. So they say, whatever you say in terms of revenues that comes up from marketing, that's all a model. It's never reality. You never know where your customers come from. There's no way you're ever going to know. So what Google says, okay, we project the world, and the world is now all clicks. So all the clicks on marketing, on any marketing contact, that's the world. And we take the last click, because the last click closes the deal, and all the revenue goes to that last click. By chance, people tend to search at the end of their decision process, so Google gets away pretty well with that. And since the software analytics is free, you're going to use it and you're going to see, oh, Google is working really well for me, I should spend more money here. The problem is, it does not tell you that people actually bought because they searched on Google. Maybe they searched on Google because your friend told you about this business. You're like, oh, this was something like Zalando or something. They sell shoes online. So I search for Zalando shoes online, and I will find Zalando. Then I will buy something, and then Google says, hey, Zalando, there is another customer we brought to you. Can you please pay for it? So this is basically the kind of industry standard, which is very sad. So an attribution model, if you think of it like a kind of semi-formal definition, what you actually want is you have all kinds of marketing contacts. So it's a projection from the real world to data. And now for each contact, you want to assign a weight. And you want to say, and then you spread the number of customers or the revenues with these weights. And the question is, how do you do that? So you could do that globally. So Google search says, okay, the weight for the last contact is 1, and that has to be a click. You could also say there is a data-driven approach. So for example, I see people who have the marketing contacts A, B, C, they buy twice as often as people who just see the contacts A and C. So B apparently is very important. Google bought a company called Odometry. They do exactly this. The problem is, now you could have A, B, C. B was only shown in Berlin. In Berlin, people buy twice as often as in the rest of Germany. So B is very important. No, it's not. It's just only people in Berlin could see B, and AC was in the rest of Germany. Okay? So there's no causality built into these models. Still, they sell the software for, I think, $150,000 a year. And it shows you data-driven approach to why you should spend more money on marketing. So there is something else that you could do. It's called holdout tests, where it's just A/B testing. I think in all in academia, it's like in all the experimental setups. It's very easy. It's a well-known concept. It doesn't really exist in the concept of measurement of company success. So what you could do, think of doing something good. Let's say you show a banner. To 10% of the times you show a UNICEF banner linking on UNICEF, and 90% of the times you show the banner of your business. Now you set a cookie, so you identify your customers, and the difference in what they spend on your website, it's most likely related to, well, showing that banner, right? So you have an audience, it's randomly selected, 10% see a UNICEF banner, they don't know that it's being shown paid by us, but you can see the difference. So that would be a fair setup to actually know whether your marketing actions have any impact. The problem again is this effect has to be large enough. So if the effect is not large enough, it will take you a long time to actually know whether you're having success. Thinking about the attribution problem, if you want to know where should I spend my money, it still won't answer. So it only tells you in that very context, this was the incremental effect. It doesn't tell you spend 50% of your budget on TV, 40% on Google, and 10% on Facebook. That won't answer the question. It's more like a partial derivative, taking everything else constant. What's the incremental effect? What's the change if I spend more money here or less money? Okay, so there's also a lot of technical aspects I won't really talk about right now. So now thinking about, again, this customer journey. So you have a customer, and what Google also says, or all the commercial software is if somebody buys, they look at everything that happened since the last transaction. Okay? So that means I'm buying today, I'm buying an iPhone on Amazon. So these models that should suggest that everything that made me purchase happened after the last transaction. So me seeing a certain banner is the same thing as somebody who has never bought on Amazon, and that's obviously wrong. And first of all, it's obviously wrong from a concept. If you think about a second approach, and that can hurt your business, is think about a customer who's buying razor blades on Amazon every month. It's not a subscription, he's just coming back and he's buying it every month. Now, they have a revenue target to hit. So there's the shareholders, they're kind of saying, okay, revenues are not on track. So Amazon is trying to prevent that, and they send out a voucher to this customer, 10 years on razor blades. Now this customer is going to buy the razor blades, but he won't buy the razor blades next month. He only needs razor blades once a month. He doesn't shave twice as often just because there was a promotion. So if you think about attribution, so all kinds of measurement of efficiency of marketing, what that would tell you is that transaction came 100% through this coupon. But he won't buy next month. So actually, in terms of customer lifetime value, you just performed the negative action. You decreased customer lifetime value by the value of the voucher. So you actually lose money. But in any software that you will use, any tool that you find online, anything on the market today, it will just tell you 100% of this revenue goes to this coupon. You spent the coupon and the difference you made in profit. The problem is, since everything you do for marketing doesn't add up, you will never notice that. But you're actually hurting your business. So whenever you spend money today, what you actually have to look at is, what is the incremental effect on customer lifetime value if I spend this money? And a coupon can have a very, very negative customer lifetime value impact. Other things can just be correlated, but there's no causality implied. So we can, as I said before, so we can afford the expected incremental CV of an impression or a click. And if you basically, as a company, would say, I only spend what I make on day one, then you will grow really, really slowly. So you will never be able to, if there's anybody else in the market, they observe you, they will go after you. So you have to be faster than them. You're not allowed to only spend what you make on day one. It would be very, 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 very stupid decision. So you should kind of see, what can I afford in a reasonable time frame that somebody else gives the money to grow faster? And that's exactly what we do, for example. The other part is, if I just assume a constant customer lifetime value for all my customers, and I say a customer is worth 200 euros in 1 year, you will also most likely will go bust, because not all customers are equal. If you think about somebody who searches for buy iPhone 6 installments, that person is worth less than somebody who does not use the word installments, or free returns. It's good to increase revenues, but this customer is not worth the same as somebody who does not use this word. It's just a fact. Like, one big difference between what you see in online business models and the application of maths and finance is actually humans behave the same all over again. They do the same things all over and all over. So what's another really, really tough thing is, so how do we handle sparse data? So if you do this at scale, and we spend 3-digit amounts, millions per year, so how do you know what you should spend? So what's the impact of customer lifetime value if you have somebody in the morning versus late at night? Of course, if I haven't shown an ad to you at 3 a.m. in the morning, you're not going to be really receptive. So the probability that you actually turn into a loyal customer is very, very low. iOS versus Android. People with iOS, they spend more money. Ads in app A or app B. An app that has certain demographics has higher customer lifetime value than another one. Small ad or big ad. Should we target the ad on people in Berlin or Munich? Discount or no discount? So now all this together, if you take all these anything isolated has a big impact. Now, altogether, you won't have any data. So what do you do? So if you think of a specific example, we do all this modeling, so you will never have enough data. So let's say you have a very granular segment. So it's a banner on a website X, it's this size, it's on its mobile device, it's iOS, 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. So you won't have enough data to ever make a decision. You still know there is a difference. You can't just spend whatever you assume is right for your business on aggregate. You won't grow very fast and you won't win against the competition. So you could aggregate your way up. And the idea is basically, think about, you take the most similar elements. So I could say, if the most homogeneous group I can aggregate is, in this case, taking all banner sizes, I will aggregate all banner sizes. If I still don't have enough data, I can say, okay, take all people before lunch, not only at 9 a.m. Then I can say, okay, take all the operating systems, no matter whether it's iOS or Android. And then even all devices, so I take desktop computers. And if I still don't have enough data, well, I can take everything. It's just a little example. How you would do that? Basically, you would have an algorithm that learns all this. Well, we could still have sparse data. It's a problem. So oftentimes we have multi-million dimensional problems. So how could you do that? You could increase your time span. You could use correlated events. So instead of looking at purchases, I could look at add to cart events, at product views, at how much time people spend on our websites. Well, and then you can do everything at the same time. And if you do that, basically, if you think about all these Zalando spots a few years back with Schrei vor Glück, so this is the creative part. But actually, what is driving digital marketing today is the people, the PhDs in maths that are sitting there and trying to fit these problems. And what we are on the way is basically understanding this better than probably all other companies. And that includes the Americans. And basically you see at the scale that we operate, suddenly you have to solve problems that nobody else has solved before. And there's a huge wave of innovation, and suddenly profiles have to work on problems that you would have never expected to work in this kind of field. So having a very technical audience here, if you kind of go into any random subject in the internet world today, you will find an area where you can innovate, where you can be better than anybody else, just because it's so young, just because nobody has thought about it. And I'm not saying this just nobody has thought about it. So I talked to, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Professor Feder of Wharton. So he's a world-renowned expert on customer lifetime value modeling. He said he doesn't know anybody who has solved this problem. So I even say if you guys solve that problem, you will easily find somebody to finance you. It's very tough, but it's very challenging, it's very rewarding, and it's just a little example. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And thank you.